I'm Shannon Martin. Tonight, extreme heat sweeps across most of southern Ontario, prompting warnings and making it especially tough on those who work outdoors. Extended hours at swimming pools plus cooling centers are open too, but there is little relief for those working in the heat.
If you have the time and you're not afraid of needles, it's definitely worth it to donate.
An urgent call from Canadian Blood Services. We'll have more on the immediate need for donors. And Drake is feeling better and bringing OVO Fest back to Budweiser stage. We're live with fans.
This is CBC Saturday News.
Is here. The hot, humid weather has prompted warnings and cooling centers to open, and it's got people right across southern Ontario finding ways to stay cool.
Sun, beach, pool. I don't complain. There's only a month and a half of it, 2 months at the most. It's nothing to complain about.
No better place to be than to be in the swimming pool. You know, it's magical here. Look, you're close to the lake. Beautiful water, beautiful people, nice weather. Cannot complain, man.
Yeah, you got that right. Okay, much of southern Ontario is under a heat warning this weekend. You're looking live at just some spots across the province: Mississauga, Toronto, Collingwood, and Wasaga Beach, where some are soaking up the tropical lake temperatures. Others are trying to escape it. Let's bring in Sophia now. Sophia, I know you've been tracking this all day. It really is divisive. Some love it, some hate it, but, you know, it can be oppressive, too.
Yeah, oppressive for anybody with a heat-related illness. You mentioned those heat warnings that blanket all of southern Ontario, and we are talking about dangerous heat and humidity conditions. What if I told you that Sunday morning it is going to feel like the mid-30s, not only in southwestern Ontario, but all the way up into cottage country as well? You layer on the Humidex for the peak of the heat for Sunday, and it will rival the most humid day that Toronto Pearson has ever had, feeling like the mid-40s right across the board. What if I told you that it will feel hotter in Toronto tomorrow than it will in the Bahamas, in the Dominican, or even into Puerto Rico, where it'll only feel like the high 30s. It doesn't relent until late Monday into Tuesday, and this is the why. We have this stagnant boundary on top of us of Gulf moisture and Gulf heat. It's blocked by high pressure from either side, and it's just filled with water vapor. It's going to come to a boiling point late Sunday into Monday in the form of torrential downpours, even flash floods, which we'll talk about a little later in the program. Until then, those red flags for anybody with heat-related illness, you want to watch for signs of great discomfort, the headaches, the confusion, the dizziness, even the muscle cramps. You want to make sure to keep your house ventilated and cool. Then let's talk about never leaving children or pets in a vehicle, because watch this, just after 20 minutes, Shannon, it will feel like 50 degrees inside a car or van. It's unbelievable, dangerous conditions.
Yeah, really frightening stuff. Thanks, Sophia. We'll talk to you soon.
You're welcome.
The extreme heat also making it tough for those who work outside, including Toronto firefighters who battled a deadly blaze earlier today. Emergency crews were called to a home in the Downsview neighborhood around 7:30 this morning. They found a man in life-threatening condition. He was taken to hospital but later died. Toronto Fire Chief Matthew Pegg said the fire was under control by late morning. The cause, though, still under investigation. Peel police say a man is dead following a multi-vehicle crash in Brampton. It happened on Chinguacousy Road shortly before 4 this morning. A motorcycle and Toyota both heading northbound when police say the bike drove into the back of the car. The man on the motorcycle died on scene. Police haven't said whether anyone in the vehicle was injured. Also in Peel, police are investigating after a 2-year-old fell from a Mississauga balcony last night. The boy was rushed to a pediatric trauma unit. Police initially said his injuries were potentially life-threatening, but they now say he is stable. Some good news there. It's not clear yet what the circumstances led to his fall or who was with him at the time. An urgent call tonight from Canadian Blood Services. It says it has just 3 days worth of O positive blood supply as the number of donors has dropped to its lowest level in a decade. Clara Pasica takes a look at why.
Here at the Canadian Blood Services Donor Clinic in downtown Toronto, many are rolling up their sleeves after hearing about the urgent need. Repeat donor Cassandra Seward says donating is a simple thing to save a life.
If you have the time and you're not afraid of needles, it's definitely worth it to donate.
But the organization needs a lot more arms, especially from those like Marat Altambayev, who has an O blood type.
I like being wanted, so it's helpful to be able to give to anyone.
Canadian Blood Services says there are just 3 days supply of both O blood types and just 5 days for several other blood types. Emergency room doctor Adil Shamji says the need for blood is often greater in the summer as people take on activities including long drives, which may lead to more accidents. But this summer has a new variable.
And so I think it's a combination of the usual annual, somewhat predictable demand, and then some unique circumstances arising from the backlog of medical services that have led to more acute medical presentations this summer.
But for many frequent donors like Mark McCauley, that has nothing to do with it. He says the organization's decision to remove the mask mandate caused him to cancel a recent appointment.
You know, it's biting the hand that feeds you. It's ridiculous, and the stakes are so high. The consequences are so real. It defies logic to me.
He'd like to see a creative solution so everyone can donate in an environment they feel comfortable.
I've seen some people suggest that maybe certain days of the week are mask. I'll use a term like mask optional rather than mask welcome, or even perhaps the last hour of the day could be dedicated to a mask optional clients.
The organization is also being criticized for moving too slowly to ease a ban on accepting donations from men who have had sex with men in the past few months. That policy is set to ease by at least the end of September. The organization couldn't answer why it can't happen any sooner, given the urgency at hand. Clara Pasica, CBC News, Toronto.
Another weekend and more staffing shortages at hospitals to tell you about. In Ottawa, the emergency department at Carleton Place and District Memorial closed at 7 a.m. this morning and will be reopening at 7 a.m. tomorrow. There's just not enough nurses. And Montfort Hospital will be closing overnight today and tomorrow. Meanwhile, the ICU at Bowmanville Hospital remains closed after Lakeridge Health decided to relocate the unit and consolidate services to the Ajax, Pickering, and Oshawa hospitals. We have some breaking news out of BC to tell you about in the Amanda Todd trial. Dutch national Aidan Coban has been found guilty of a number of charges, including extortion, harassment, communication with a young person to commit a sexual offense, and possession and distribution of child pornography. You probably remember this story. Amanda Todd was just 15 years old when she died by suicide in 2012. Before she died, she posted a video that described being tormented online. Coban was not charged in relation to her death. The jury heard that he posed as a young person online, convinced his victims to send him sexually provocative video, and then blackmailed them. To some sports news now. The chair of Hockey Canada's board of directors has stepped down. It comes as the organization faced pointed questions about how it handled assault allegations against top junior players. Dale Minukduk has reaction.
The chair of Hockey Canada has resigned. Michael Brindamore, whose term was up in November, says there's no need to wait.
Canadians have sent a clear message to Hockey Canada that real leadership change is needed, and this is at all levels within the organization.
In a statement, Brindamore says, "I have listened carefully and intently to the comments of Canadians about the culture of our sport and our organization, and about our actions and leadership. I understand that the actions we have taken in recent weeks are part of the solution." His resignation could trigger even more. Many have called for President Scott Smith to step down.
They absolutely have to step down, but the repair that needs to be made is so huge. It's almost starting all over again, basically.
And that work isn't just within Hockey Canada. It's hockey in Canada.
The culture is what has been made by the generation before. So the adults are the people who have to start asking themselves questions about maybe some of the experiences that they went through in junior.
Brady Leavold has experience on both sides as a 16-year-old pressured by older players to drink and have sex, and the team's veteran applying the pressure.
you have 19 and 20-year-old guys showing you the ropes, so to speak. And guess what? 3-4 years previous, those guys were the 16-year-olds who were shown from the 19, 20-year-olds who 4 years previous. It's just this cycle.
And in his experience, it's hard to break.
I know at 16, I'd never wanted to say, no, I won't do this, because I know what that meant. You're going to get picked on. You're going to get ripped apart in the dressing room. You're not going to be accepted.
Leivold says it's the responsibility of everyone in the community to help build a safe space in hockey. Dale Manukduk, CBC News.
Welcome back. The city is alive with summertime fun from festivals and concerts. Drake's OVO Fest is back. The hometown superstar had to postpone recently after testing positive for COVID. Delia Ashby is live for us at Budweiser stage. Fans are pretty excited to have this one back.
Yeah, that's right, Shannon. I mean, as you can see, I'm melting out here. It's hot. It feels like 40 degrees, but that's not stopping fans here at the Budweiser stage from seeing one of their favorite rappers, Drake. There's also Nicki Minaj and Lil Wayne. The other day, Drake took to his social media saying negative test, positive outcome, and those were his words to his fans, letting them know the highly anticipated Young Money reunion show OVO Fest is back on. The show was called off on Monday after Drake tested positive for COVID-19. The concert was canceled just hours later before he was supposed to take on the Budweiser stage with Nicki Minaj and Lil Wayne. And this year's OVO Fest is the first one since 2019, since it was canceled due to the pandemic. And to reference Drake, as he says, it's God's plan. And a lot of people here are ready for this God's plan to enjoy the concert. You know, they're not chilling with their sweatpants on and no makeup and hair back. I have with me here Andrea Cameron, who came, where'd you come from, Andrea?
From Hamilton, Ontario.
Yeah, so she came quite the distance to come see Drake. How did you feel after, you know, he had to cancel last week on Monday?
I was feeling sad. I was really looking forward to it after COVID and everything, but I'm super glad it was able to be rescheduled right away. So I'm ready to party tonight.
Did you have to pivot some of your plans around last week?
Yes, I definitely did, but it's well worth it.
And you've been standing out in the heat. How are you feeling, and what are you looking forward to the most once you go in there?
I think Drake and definitely Nicki Minaj. I've been a fan of Young Money for forever. I was at their reunion 10 years ago, so it's nice to be back here to celebrate 10 years later.
Yeah. And especially after COVID and everything that's been happening and lockdown, so this is your first concert in a while. Is this your first time seeing Drake?
No, I've seen him a bunch of times. I'm a huge fan, so it's nice to see him again.
All right, thank you. And you're here with your friends, right? So I don't want you to lose your spot. I'm going to let you get back. Thanks, Andrea. So that's one fan who's really excited. There was another fan that I spoke to earlier today who also really wanted to see Drake last week, but they also had tickets for the Lady Gaga concert tonight, and they had to pick and choose which concert they wanted to be at. So with no further ado, all I'm going to say is Gaga Ooh La La is who they ended up choosing. Here's what they had to say.
I ended up selling them, I'm sad to say. I mean, we did make a few bucks, which is nice, but that's not really what the outcome I wanted. I got the tickets because I genuinely really wanted to go to the show. So, you know, it was nice being able to make a couple dollars and to still have something you know, amazing to do tonight, but you know, it wasn't the outcome I was hoping for, that's for sure.
And to reference once again Drake, one of his favorite lines from his songs is live for today, plan for tomorrow, and party tonight. And that's exactly what these excited fans plan to do this evening at the OVO Fest. That's going to start at 7 o'clock. Gates are opening up. People are excited to go in. And then you have the fans at Lady Gaga's concert. So hope they all enjoy it. Stay cool out here. Shannon?
Thanks so much, Delia. Well, over at Nathan Phillips Square, Taste of Vietnam was in full swing with performances, culture, and lots of food.
With the Vietnamese culture, it's a little bit smaller in North America, and to have something like this, we have different people and vendors from Montreal and different parts of Ontario that have come together for this grand event. So it really just means that we're never alone and we're always here in unison, and that culture brings us together, and this is a great time of celebration this summer.
Organizers say this was only their second time putting on their event that showcases Vietnamese food and culture. It also features the latest fashion from the country and music, too. Part of today's proceeds will go to Better Futures for Kids and Oh Yay Canada to help fight child trafficking. The festival is free. It runs until 10 tonight. And Mayor Tory was at the annual Sikh Community Picnic in Scarborough this afternoon.
I'm always happy to be at events like this. This is a good bar I've visited many times, and they do so much good work day in and day out, serving meals to seniors at home. Having anybody who shows up here at this Sikh temple can get a meal 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and this is their chance to have a little fun, and they haven't done it for a couple of years, and this is a wonderful faith community that contributes so much to our city, and I'm happy to come here and support them.
It was hosted by Gursikh Sabha Scarborough. Hundreds gathering for the event this afternoon, taking in delicious meals prepared by the organization. There was music and games for the kids too, as well as a pop-up vaccine. We're heading into a short commercial break. We'll see you in 2 minutes. What a warm welcome home. Vaughan celebrating Andrew Wiggins. You can see he brought the Larry O'Brien Trophy home with him this weekend. The 27-year-old NBA forward was a big part of Golden State's championship playoff run this year. Wiggins is also hosting his Let's Get It Done basketball camp this weekend, offering equal opportunity for all kids to play the sport they love. And returning to our top story now, the heat. If you're looking for ways to cool down this evening, the City of Toronto is extending hours at 7 pools, keeping them open until just before midnight tonight. For a complete list, you can head to toronto.ca/swim. Sophia is here now with a look at the heat. And when you said, you know, we're hotter than some of the places you think about, like the Bahamas, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, temperatures rival places right around the line of the equator, but with the Humidex, we feel way warmer. It will continue to be that way. We are only in the middle of this 3-day heat event. And remember, there's a ton of festivals and things to do around the downtown core and all over Ontario. The temperatures don't look that bad, right? But it's when you couple and add on the humidity on top of that, we're talking about what feels like 10 degrees warmer for the next 36 hours or so. And again, that Sunday afternoon is that peak where the humidity could rival the hottest we've had so far this year at Toronto Pearson. And let's also talk about the growing storm risk that will come along with this heat and humidity. So isolated storms possible even up to Cottage Country for the rest of this evening and into the overnight. And then Sunday, more widespread severe storms possibly right along that boundary, right? You can kind of see where that stationary boundary of humidity is really setting up, and then widespread rain possible with all of that moisture content in the atmosphere for Monday. The possible of training storms, flash flooding, which could cause millions of dollars, especially in urban areas for Monday all day. So we'll watch that, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow.
Okay, thanks so much, Sophia. See you tomorrow.
Welcome.
That's Serena Williams getting warmed up today, one of the tennis greats in Toronto for the National Bank Open. Her sister Venus will also be in action, along with some fierce Canadian contenders. Qualifying action now underway. To take us through all of it, let's bring in Arash Madani. You know him from Sportsnet, covering just about every sport you can imagine. Thanks so much for being here. I know how busy you are, Arash.
Great to see you, Shannon.
So there is so much to talk about, though. But first, you're covering this in Montreal. What's the energy like just having fans back in the stands after almost 3 years?
Incredible. I mean, the energy is just at an all-time high. They're expecting here in Montreal record crowds, all-time setting record crowds for the week. And even today, for the qualifying, the grounds are just jammed with people for all the different events that are happening. There are a number of young Canadian players taking part in the qualies, and you get a chance to watch some of the great players on tour practice on the weekend, which is free and open to everybody. So you really are starting to feel and sense the momentum growing.
Yes, it's super exciting. We know the Canadian talent is stacked, and when we talk about women's first, you know, Mississauga's Bianca Andreescu is back defending her title. Also, Leylah Fernandez, just 19 years old. I know she suffered a foot injury, right, at the French Open, but these are two women to watch for sure.
No question, and it's going to be really interesting with Leylah because let's remember, in a few weeks, she has points to defend from reaching the U.S. Open finals last year. And Fernandez, when I spoke with her back in April, we had an interview at the Billie Jean King Cup. You know, she said, my goal is to be top 10 on tour at the end of the season. And she's very confident about that. And obviously had the setback with the injury at the end of clay court season. But if there's one thing we've learned about this very young woman, very new to the tour, is that she has a confidence and a belief to her. With Andreescu, it's going to be really interesting to see what her game is now, what her level is right now, because we know what it can be, a former major champion. And the one thing with Bianca is when she brings it, there are few who have the power game she does on the women's tour. If both of these athletes are able to get into the middle to late part of the week, that would be a very successful Open for them.
Absolutely. And being in Montreal covering the men's, I know you've got some really strong Canadian talent there too.
Yeah, I mean, Felix Auger-Aliassime is really ascending and is becoming part of the real conversation in all of men's tennis. And he grew up here, Shannon. These are the courts that, as a young kid, as a junior on the way up, that Felix practiced on with dreams and visions of playing in this very event. And he's going to come in as one of the real players to watch. They sold out the lower bowl of the entire week months ago, not with Roger or Rafa or Novak as the featured draw, but Felix. So in these parts, Felix Auger-Aliassime is going to be turning a lot of heads, and he is a #1 draw. Denis Shapovalov made his triumph here, his breakout here. 5 years ago, out of nowhere, upset Rafa Nadal. And Shapovalov's had some struggles the last couple of months. It's going to be interesting. This is his wheelhouse part of the season, the hard court season in the summer, not only here in Canada, but then obviously moving on to New York and the U.S. Open. I'm intrigued to see what Denis has in store, too.
Young powerhouses. We're almost out of time, but this is only just the beginning. What are you looking most forward to over the next week, would you say?
I would say it's the Canadians, honestly. I mean, this tournament here in Montreal doesn't have Nadal. Federer's out. Djokovic isn't vaccinated, can't be here. I know Serena brings the name power and the legendary status and the OG status in Toronto, but her game hasn't been the same either. This may very well be the opportunity for the breakthrough for the Canadians at major Masters levels to come out and really have a massive show. And if they do, what a way to welcome all the crowds back for that kind of performance.
Yes, so many young powerhouses to watch. We can't wait. What a week for tennis. Thanks so much to Arash Madani, who spoke to us. He's from Sportsnet in the middle of his very busy day filing out of Montreal. That's our newscast for you tonight. Thank you so much for joining us, and thanks to everyone who took the time to share their stories with us. You can catch up on news anytime on our website, cbcnews.ca. We'll see you again tomorrow night at 11.